Entering the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog. Week 5 injuries, updated fantasy rankings, props, Underdog, DraftKings. It's all here in the Week 5 cheat sheet. You can always get this in text form up on 4for4.com, along with the updated rankings list, which are out right now. You can get that down in the description. Additionally, if you sub to the free Mayo Media newsletter, you'll get the email blast later on Saturday evening when all of the injuries are finalized. Additionally, smash a like, sub to the channel. That always goes a long way. If you have a question about week number 5 on Sunday, dump them in the comment section. I'll get to them Saturday night and early on Sunday morning, hopefully before the London game. Depends on what time I wake up. Spoiler alert, I'm always up early before that game, so I'll be there for you if you need the help. And if you only want to hear about props or DraftKings and don't care about the fantasy rankings, hit the time codes, jump around for me, all right? Let's get to those injuries and fantasy rankings. Chuba Hubbard is out against the Dolphins for the Carolina Panthers with a calf injury. I've moved up Rico Dowdle to number 13 in the running back rankings. Trevor Etienne, not Travis, Trevor Etienne, Trevi, comes in at number 40. I would guess that the split is somewhere between 70 and 30% for Dowdle and Trevi, because that's what we saw once Hubbard really not left the game last week, but just wasn't really being utilized much in the game. Dowdle's been a pass-catching back for them. He's only $4,300 on DraftKings as well, so you have to pick your poison this week with some of the backup running backs. It would be Dowdle for me, no ETN. Bucky Irving is out with an ankle injury or foot injury or whatever the hell they're calling. He ain't playing against the Seattle Seahawks this week. I don't know how this split is going to go. Additionally, the Seahawks defense is really good. Passing, running-wise, it's just been excellent so far this season. So I tentatively have Rachaad White as a low-end running back too, 19 in the running back rankings. Now, that's mainly because Sean Tucker comes in at number 32. Just remember the times when Rachaad White would be out last season and be like, man, it's time for a Bucky smash fest. Wording. However, it would be like a split between Sean Tucker and Rachaad White, or Sean Tucker and Bucky Irving. They just like to run two running back systems in Tampa Bay. It could be completely wrong, could be 90% White. I don't see it going that way. White will be the primary pass-catching bat. That I feel pretty good about. Not like completely certain, but pretty good about. But Sean Tucker could be the goal line back here. Plus, it's a tough D. Who knows how many yards are going to accrue anyway, so not great starts. It would be White over Tucker, but in a pinch, you could play Tucker and hopefully things break your way. I think the biggest one of the week, and one of the more confusing ones about how this is going to shake itself down, Trey Benson, the hot pickup from last week, has now been placed on injured reserve. He's out at least 3 weeks in Arizona. Glorious matchup this week against the Tennessee Titans. Bottom 3 run defense, bottom 2 in giving up fantasy points to opposing running backs. So that leaves us with Michael Carter and Amari DiMercato, and then you have Bam Knight lurking somewhere in the background. I did bet Bam Knight to score a touchdown at 14-1 or 16-1. That number's been cut to 4-1. So sometimes jumping upon the news early can pay huge dividends. Whether he scores or not, I have no idea, but I'd rather take 4 times the odds to figure it out. I would not bet him at 4-1. I bet Michael Carter at plus 180, I think it was, plus 175 to score a touchdown, and he's down to like plus 125. I have Michael Carter above DiMercato. I have Michael Carter at number 21 in the running back rankings. That's sandwiched directly between Alvin Kamara and Chase Brown. So I would play him ahead of Chase Brown because that's a terrible matchup. More on that in the props. DiMercato, I have it running back number 26. That's sandwiched between Henderson and Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt. The thinking being, I think that Carter is going to be the primary ball carrier between the tackles on the ground. Not to say that DiMercato is not going to get any carries, but like pencil him for like 4 to 8 and be the primary receiving back. Now, the problem is, the Cardinals are 7.5 to 8.5 point favorites wherever you look. It's not like Tennessee's pumping the scoreboard with points lately. So if you expect, as the spread does, that the Cardinals will be out in front in this game, it's going to be the guy on the ground. So I think that Carter gets the carries. I think that he gets the goal line work, and DiMercato will be spliced in as a change of pace or in 2-minute drills on clear passing downs, 3rd and 15, whatever it might be. But I think that Carter will end up with more touches and the more valuable touches in this game. So it would be Michael Carter over DiMercato for me. He's a low-end running back number 2. Rather play Dowdle in this spot, but here we are. Lamar Jackson is out 1 to 3 weeks with a hamstring injury. If we don't get 25 Derrick Henry touches in this game, what are we even doing at this point? I have him at running back number 11 for this game. Issue is they're taking on the Texans, who have a very good run defense. I have Zay Flowers as wide receiver number 16 with Cooper Rush starting at quarterback. I don't love any of these options, even that 11 for Henry, just because he is Derrick Henry. You give him the benefit of the doubt that he can do this. And he's probably your first round pick or your second round pick and you're running back one. So you're probably going to have to play him anyway, unless you're just born with so many great options. I could see benching him. I wouldn't bench him. Here's the thing. I didn't know that, like, no Lamar and a banged up offensive line and the best run defense that they've played all year. Because I've seen Henry as high as like 3 in people's rankings. That seems crazy to me. It's just without Lamar, I just think the degree of difficulty is higher for Derrick Henry. They're going to score fewer points, both against a great defense and without Lamar around, and Cooper Rush trying to not turn the ball over and under center for the Ravens. So, like, he's a good play. He's not a high upside play in the start, unless he goes full Derrick Henry and goes for like 220 and 3 touchdowns. I just don't expect that to happen. Miles Sanders is questionable for the Dallas Cowboys against the Jets. I think that he is going to go. Obviously, I still much prefer Javonte Williams. He didn't practice on Friday, which usually means he's out, but he's a veteran, so he could be there. Jura said that Jalen Blue is actually going to be active for this game. I still put Javonte Williams at running back number 6. If Sanders ends up going, I'm going to drop him down to 9 or 10 only because we've seen Sanders take away a lot of the goal line work from Javonte Williams so far this season. It's not every single snap, but they're like splitting inside the red zone. That's not great for what you want to be a high upside play in Javonte Williams in a fantastic matchup in a high total against the Jets. Tajay Spears is leaning in for the Titans, so I pumped down Tony Pollard just a wee little bit. Not that I like Tony Pollard anyway. I'm looking for any excuse to not play Tony Pollard. I have him at running back number 24 this week in a decent matchup, but there's also 4 teams on buys and a whole bunch of injuries, so it's not like a great vote of confidence for Tony Pollard. Pick up Spears if he's available. He's probably not available in any competitive league, but if he is available in yours, go make bench room for Tajay Spears. Pollard's at 24. That's a spot behind like J.K. Dobbins. Even Chase Brown I'd play ahead of him because of the receptions. Michael Carter is ahead of him. That's in front of like Pacheco and Henderson. I have Spears down at number 39 in the running back rankings. Once again, if you just want to see the entire list of rankings by position, hit the description. Go to 4for4.com. They are all updated there right now. The direct link is down there. Smash the like and sub to the channel while you're here. And once again, if you have any questions, hit me up in the comment section. I will get to them, or my intern will get to them. One of the two of us will get to them, and we'll be fine. Tyrone Tracy is expected to be out. He's doubtful against the New Orleans Saints. He was back at practice a little bit this week. They do play on Thursday Night Football, so it's looking like he's trending to go do it that week. Next week, I believe it's against the Eagles. Scatman Gatto, not really him. Scataboo is running back number 12 this week against the Saints. Aaron Jones remains out on the injured reserve for at least 2 more games. Jordan Mason in a difficult but not the end of the world matchup on the ground against the Browns is running back number 18. Xavier Scott is number 43. Last week, Xavier Scott was able to pile up a bunch of receptions because the Vikings got down a lot in that game, and he became the clear passing down back. He and Mason ran similar amounts of routes, but just Mason played so many more snaps that he was running routes on non-obvious passing downs. 2-minute drill, comeback time, that was Xavier Scott. Even stole the touchdown away from Jordan Mason. So running back 18 for Mason, running back number 43 for Xavier Scott. For the Jets, Braylon Allen has been placed on injured reserve. It looked bad on Monday night, and it turned out that it was bad. 8 to 12 weeks. He's probably done for the season at this point because I doubt the Jets are making a deep run into January, starting the year off 0-4. Hot start. The Jets, real good. Breece Hall is running back number 5 in the rankings because he's still good. And Isaiah Davis, now the primary backup to Breece Hall, is coming in at number 41. He's also a special teams player. The Jets signed Khalil Herbert earlier this week too. There are a slew of injuries for Washington. Deebo Samuel, with his heel and foot injury, is expected to play. That's good news because Terry McLaurin remains out with this quad injury. Noah Brown remains out with his groin injury. Another big boost, Jaden Daniels, gonna be back wearing a knee brace, but he will be playing against the Los Angeles Chargers this week. on the West Coast. So this backfield is an absolute cluster. I have no idea what to do. I do have Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt as the highest of the running backs, but he's running back number 26 or 27. It's Chris Rodriguez after that, and then it's Jeremy McNichols. They all basically played the same amount of snaps a week ago. If everyone's only getting 30% of the snaps, none of these guys are startable until we get a better sense of what's going on. I have Daniels at quarterback number 5. I get he has the brace. Maybe he won't run as much, but I do like the back and forth nature of this game. Luke McCaffrey does come in at number 43. Jalen Lane at number 56. You could play Chris Moore because he's running the second most routes and playing the second most snaps. Just no one is throwing to him in this spot. You could play him like over 2.5 catches, over 3.5 catches. I think pays like 2-1 if you wanted to ladder him up. If this just becomes the Chris Moore game, I don't think I'd run him out for fantasy purposes because it's just very low upside, but for just overall receptions and a little bit of a floor, it's probably Chris Moore. Luke McCaffrey would be my preference of all the guys who are not named Deebo Samuel as a part of the wide receiver core. I did bump up Zach Ertz to tight end number 6, who caught touchdowns in both games that Jaden Daniels has started this season, and with Brock Bowers banged up and a ton of injuries at tight end, Zach Ertz is one of the more reliable options that you can have right now. Chargers not great against tight end either. Michael Pittman is expected in for the Colts. Alec Pierce is out again with a concussion for the Colts. So Downs moves up into that Pierce spot at wide receiver number 43. That's by like Malik Washington, Luke McCaffrey, Hollywood Brown, and Cooper Kupp. Not a great option, a low upside option, but a good matchup in that passing game against the Raiders. Then we go to Dallas. We already talked about Miles Sanders, but the receiving core additionally quite banged up. CeeDee Lamb is still out 1 to 4 weeks with his ankle injury. There is a chance that he comes back next week, so fingers crossed for that for anyone who's a CeeDee Lamb owner. Kevontae Turpin is out with a foot injury. He also hurt his neck last week too. And Jonathan Issa Mingo is questionable. Has not played a game yet this season, so he might get in against the Jets. I really like Jalen Tolbert in this game. Not as much as George Pickens, obviously. But George Pickens is wide receiver number 8. Jalen Tolbert is wide receiver number 26 in this game. His over of 3.5 receptions, be it at Underdog or any of the other sports books that you can go to, it's plus money right now. It's like plus 125, and in a game against the Jets, they've just been a sieve defensively so far this year. One of the highest projected point totals on the slate for the Cowboys as favorites, even on the road. I really like Tolbert in this spot. Everyone's going to want to play Jake Ferguson. Granted, he's going to get a lot of low A-dot targets. I just think that if Sauce... It's not that Sauce can't be beat by George Pickens. George Pickens can beat probably any DB in the league. It's whether or not he holds onto the ball, stays in bounds, and doesn't take like a 20-yard stupid penalty after he catches the ball for doing something absolutely brain dead. Tolbert, more reliable in the sense. I think we're just going to see a lot of him in this game with the other injuries that have been piling up for the Dallas Cowboys here. So I think that he is a high-end wide receiver 3 play if you need someone to pick up and start this week. Cedric Tillman for the Browns in the early game in London has been placed on injured reserve with a hamstring injury. He is out at least 4 weeks. Dylon Hot Fire Gabriel is taking over for Joe Flacco under center for the Browns, which is probably for the best, but they're playing Minnesota, who has a very good pass defense, so it might not be the greatest start. The Browns are missing multiple offensive linemen in this game, as are the Vikings as well, so maybe not a ton of offense here unless it's a broken play. I have Jerry Jeudy at wide receiver number 35, Isaiah Bond, 37. In the wide receiver rankings. He is another guy that you could pick up. I would prefer Tolbert over Bond as a plug and play this week, although with Tillman out for an extended period of time, maybe you get lucky and Gabriel's actually pretty good and can throw the ball down the field. Then you get Bond for 3 more weeks after that. Actually, I think they're on a bye week next week coming back from London. Maybe not, though. I'll research that. Tune in Sunday Night Live, 7:15 p.m. Eastern time. We'll go over the games, and you can find out if Cleveland's playing or not. But he could be a very good pickup. Jerry Jeudy just looks kind of washed. He's open a ton, but he cannot catch the ball. Top 5 in the league in drops so far this season. Calvin Ridley is questionable for the Titans against the Cardinals this week. He has looked awful. He has looked like he's been playing through injury. He's getting no separation. In fact, like Tyler Lockett's been almost better than him in the receiving core. And here's a fun fact. Tyler Lockett has been terrible so far this season. The only one you could play, you can play Chig, I suppose, if you want to. But Alec Aomanor, the Canadian, is wide receiver number 36 this week against the Cardinals. And what I mean, every week for the Titans is a big comeback spot, but at least they look for him in the red zone on the one chance that they get down there during the game. Xavier Legette is expected in after missing the past 2 weeks with his hamstring injury against the Dolphins. Jalen Coker, the practice window is open for him to return next week. We'll see if that happens. It's probably going to be a couple more weeks, but that's a good boost for this offense. I have Tet McMillan at wide receiver number 12 against the Dolphins and Hunter Renfrow at wide receiver number 44. I would still not play Legette. Maybe you get a touchdown out of him, but more than likely you're going to have 1 point, and you probably do not want that in your fantasy lineup this week. Mike Evans is out still. 1 to 4 weeks with that hamstring problem. I have Egbuka up at wide receiver number 6, and honestly, I do not feel good about it. That's more me relying on the projections this week rather than what I saw with my eyes. He got like no separation against the Eagles last week and relied on a busted play to get into the end zone. If it wasn't for that, he would have had a terrible week. However, he just continues to do it every single week, and he's going to be the focal point of this offense in the passing game in games where they're underdogs, so you got to have him up there. I have Godwin at number 33. He of probably the easier completions to make for Baker against the Seahawks, running shorter A-dot routes, crisper routes, but he's still not 100% right now. And until you see that flash, it's really too hard to trust him as a high-end option. If you need to plug him in as a wide receiver 3, completely get it. Tyreek Hill, done for the season, and happy about it. If you see him pictures, all smiles on old Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle, that bumps him up to wide receiver number 9. For the week. Again, don't feel great about that because it's Jalen Waddle. You know he's going to have 3 receptions where he goes to the locker room every time, but he always seems to come back. He's got Puka Nacua syndrome in that regard. Malik Washington at number 41. It is a fantastic matchup against the Carolina Panthers. Maybe Horn ends up on Waddle, and that negates him a little bit. They do like to move Waddle around this offense, so they can scheme him open, and that's what we saw towards the end of the Jets game as well. Malik Neighbors out for the season. The Giants are taking on the Saints. Jackson Dart obviously playing quarterback for the Giants right now. I have Slayton above Wandale only because I think you can take advantage of the Saints through the passing game, especially deep, a very soft back end. May have to do some squats, get that firmed up a bit. But that leads me to believe it's more Slayton than Wandale. Slayton could be an absolute bust in the spot because maybe Dart isn't the best at throwing forward passes, but if he can connect down the field, that guy is going to be Slayton, not Wandale. Wandale and Theo Johnson are going to be patrolling right around 10 yards and in around the line of scrimmage. Easy passes, probably higher receptions for those guys than Slayton. But if Slayton is going to be the one that you start, you're hoping for a home run from him this week with Jackson Dart. Also like the Jackson Dart rushing over because he just prefers to run rather than throw the ball at this point. So here's the Niners coming off their big win on Thursday night. Here's their official injury report. Ricky Bullets did not play. Juwan Jennings did not play. Brandon Ayuk is unlikely to have his practice window opened officially after next week, which he would be allowed to. George Kittle might return next week. Don't count on it. Probably going to be 2 weeks for him. Brock Purdy probably not going to play next week. He's leaning out for week 6. Mac Jones was all gimped up near the end of the Thursday night game. He's probably going to play. Adrian Martinez, not necessarily needed to be called on so far for the San Francisco 49ers. Somehow they continued to get it done. Obviously, Kendrick Bourne was the one that you wanted to start, not DeMarcus Robinson on Thursday Night Football. I don't know if you're going to see a lot of 35-point games for Kendrick Bourne in the future, but it's nice, and he's probably still available on a ton of waiver wires, but it sounds like Jennings could be good to go. We'll see with Purcell later on in the week. I would expect probably both of them to return, though, with Mac Jones under center. Tight ends, slew of injuries. Again, find the rankings down, direct link in the description, 4for4.com. You can also find them for free on both places, but also in the Mayo Media newsletter, substack.com, under Mayo Media. Again, direct link down in the description. You can sub to that newsletter for free. Brock Bowers is questionable with a knee injury. He hasn't practiced either of the past 2 days. Obviously, he's played the past few weeks. I would expect him to play, but even by his own admission, he is not running full speed, so he's not getting any separation. And Michael Mayer, we don't know yet because he's still dealing with his concussion. He's questionable as well. I bumped down Bowers from tight end 2 to tight end 7, so you're probably playing him. Like, you're not going to bench Brock Bowers, who's probably playing, to go pick up some absolute loser at tight end, waste a bench spot and go do that. If you have Bowers, he's probably as good as one of the losers, even at 30%, as you're going to roll out anyway. So you're kind of stuck with him, which sucks because he's not 100%, but maybe he's just he's playing 4D chess here and he's going to be fine. We'll see what happens against the Colts. At tight end number 1, it is Trey McBride, and then Tyler Warren comes in at numero dos. Dallas Goedert is expected in. He is at tight end number 10 this week. My main man, Juwan Johnson, remains at tight end 9. That's down from tight end 5 earlier in the week because there is a possibility that both Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau return for the Saints against the Giants this week. I don't love those guys. It's just someone to take away potential touchdown upside from Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson doesn't block. He runs routes on almost every single drop back. I think that he's going to be fine. It's just the overall touchdown equity does bump him down a little bit, even though the Saints are favored in this game. Just too many mouths to feed if they end up scoring a touchdown. It's like how Brendan Cooks has been taking away from the bottom line of both Chris Olave, who has 80,000 targets and 4 fantasy points because he's fucking awful, and then Shaheed, who just can't get a completion down the field. But it's a big who cares on that front for me. Ditto with Noah Fant returning for the Bengals and Will Disley probably returning for the Chargers. I don't really care about these guys. That's not where I'm looking. Now, this one is intriguing because I went this way last week. If you watched the show, you cashed in bigly on it. Jatavion Sanders is out again with this ankle injury. It seemed like he was close, although he's probably out with this high ankle sprain another week or two. We'll see. Tommy Tremble now comes in at tight end number 12 in the rankings. That's down a little bit because Dallas Goedert ended up playing, but Tremble scored 2 touchdowns last week. Wouldn't bank on that, but again, even with Leggett coming back, he is going to be the primary route runner for the Carolina Panthers in this offense against a pretty bad. We saw Mason Taylor light up the Dolphins on Monday Night Football. I mean, light up for a Jets tight end, which I can't even remember in my lifetime the last good Jets tight end. But Tommy Tremble's in a very good spot here. Again, very low over-unders, both on props, on Underdog, 2.5 receptions is the total. I like the over on that. He's very cheap, $2,900 on DraftKings. If you have to go to a spot, you need someone to pick up, I like Tommy Tremble at least for one more week while Jatavion remains on the sidelines. In London, we got backup quarterbacks galore, because I mentioned that Dylan Gabriel is starting for the Browns. We'll see how that goes. J.J. McCarthy is going to be out for the Vikings. That puts Carson Wentz against Cleveland, and he's missing 2 offensive linemen. This has the recipe for like 8 turnovers in this game between these 2 quarterbacks. So I don't know if that necessarily lends itself to the under, because the defense can score too. You bet both teams to score defensively. Might be the absolute bet of the week here in this London game. But more on that in a second when I pile in with the props from that game, the underdog play from that game, and we get to the overall props in general for the week and the DraftKings plays. Those were the injuries. Those are the updated rankings. The rankings will continue to be updated with whatever news that we get in the Mayo Media newsletter and on 4for4.com. Hit the description, get the link. It'll take you there absolutely free. Check it out right now. We got props coming right after this. Johnnie Walker, a brand synonymous with the game of golf for over a century, is bringing bold energy to golf's fiercest stage and ultimate rivalry with the Spirit of the Cup, a fan-first program that celebrates national pride, fandom, and the relentless spirit of competition. The program invites a new generation of fans to experience golf through modern rituals, bold collaborations, and culture-forward experiences. Leading into the tournament weekend, Johnnie Walker will bring the Spirit of the Cup tour to the streets of New York City from Wednesday, September 24th through Sunday, September 28th. As a part of Johnnie Walker's commitment to making golf straight up more fun, the experience is open to the public, offering golf lovers and inspiring golfers to chip their way to glory while sipping signature Johnnie Walker cocktails. Drink responsibly. Let's dig into the Week 5 props. I put a boosted parlay, first off, at coolbet.com. If you're in Canada outside of Ontario, hit the description, get yourself a $200 deposit bonus, and you can play on the PME Weekly tab along with me. If you just go down the left-hand side, PME Weekly Boost, you will see we got Jamison Williams, longest reception, 24 yards or more. That's a bit adjusted up of what we want to do, and then I adjusted up the under for Chase Brown's under rushing yards to under 60.5, and then Giants money line chucked on there. They're only 1.5, 2-point favorites depending on where you look, and then it is boosted up itself, and that will pay 6-1 if that's the way that you want to go. Jumping over to Underdog Fantasy, I played a few of them so far. I'll give you the one for, let's see here, we go to Pick'em, and we'll take a look at the London game because I was able to do one. You know what? We'll do one for the later games already. So let's see. We'll go to this one. There's a 60% boost currently in the lobby on Underdog. Additionally, there's a 30% unlimited boost right now. You can use it as many times as you want. It's a $50 max, so you got to keep that in mind. But you can use it if you just want to play up to $50. You want to play $10. Get that extra profit boost right now. Code Mayo at Underdog. If you play a $5 Pick'em entry, you will get at least $100 back in terms of bonus funds. Win or lose, you play a $5 Pick'em entry, boom, those funds go into your account if you're a new player, and you can use this unlimited profit boost, as you can see right here. This one, it's Chigo Kongo higher than 28.5 receiving yards, Jalen Tolbert, who I've mentioned a few times, higher than 3.5 receptions, and Tommy Tremble, who I mentioned, higher than 27.5 yards. That pays 8.82 to 1. So $50 pays 441 in that regard. So that is a good spot that you can take advantage of that 30% profit boost. I think that overall it pays almost 7.5 to 1 without the profit boost on it, but those are the ones I like for the later games. Here's one that I ended up going for with, I think this one has the profit boost on it. Maybe I forgot to put it on. I did forget to put it on, and it still pays 8.2 to 1. I think with the profit boost it ends up around 10 to 1, but it's Dylan Gabriel lower than 175 passing yards in this game. Adam Thielen, I adjusted him up lower than 19.5 receiving yards. Judkins, who has been excellent on the ground, I think that you can take a little bit of advantage of the Vikings rush defense versus the pass defense, at least so far this season. That's what we've seen. I got higher than 74.5 rushing yards. I also went to Harold Fannin. This one is down a little bit. It's like minus 140, but higher than 2.5 receptions. I do think that the rookie will try to take the easier passes. I do think that the lower A-dot routes, the easier passes in this game, are probably going to go to Harold Fannin. He's just going to be open. I mean, I don't think he's going to have like 100 yards, but 3 catches for 29 yards gets the job done for us in this entry. This would be the way that I am playing it on Underdog. I have a few more just if you want to see what they are. What do we got here? Got some college football ones. I got some... I played the same one, but I played it as a flex play for a bit more money. That one's a $200 entry. So I got a few more that I'll try to cook up. You can pay attention to my Twitter feed, and I might put out some more during the games, but that's where I'm at right now with them. And then we can jump over to the SharpStack app to see what that is liking for the NFL props so far this week. 4for4.com/Mayo will get you over to the 4for4 page right now under my page. And if you use code Mayo50, you can get the SharpStack app on a 7-day free trial. Free to use for 7 days with code Mayo50. Then it's 50% off the monthly plan after that with that code Mayo50. Take the 7 days, see if you like it, see if it's working for you, and we can even play them against my picks this week. So there's a couple that I really like. I mentioned Jalen Tolbert, over 3.5 receptions. Cooper Rush, under 4.5 rushing yards. Chase Brown, under 51.5 rushing yards. Jamar Chase, over 66.5 receiving yards. Jamison Williams, 22.5 longest reception. All ones that I'm on this week. Quentin Johnston, 23.5 over longest reception against a very bad back end of the Washington Commanders. Jackson Dart, over 38.5 rushing yards. These are all on the table for me, but here's what the computer is telling us to do. Adam Thielen under 1.5 receptions in the London game. He only ran 12 routes last week. That was with the return of Jordan Addison. Jalen Naylor was on the field a lot more than he was, and Carson Wentz is going to be under duress this entire game against the Browns. The highest one right now, you can play that at Fanatics, minus 165 for the under of 1.5 receptions, one of the higher EVs on the board. Not the highest, though. When you sort by EV, Dylan Gabriel, under 181.5 passing yards, minus 115. You can even play that in a weird correlation as well. That's what I was able to do to get back the Fannin number that I wanted to get. So if you go to the NFL, and you can see the players that I had been looking up. Even on Underdog, you can get this to work. You can get it to work on many different places. But if you just go to Dylan Gabriel and we scroll down, let's see here. There's Judkins, there's Fannin. So we'll take the 0.76. So not very high. You're eating a lot of vig here on the over 2.5 receptions. However, when you get yourself to Dylan Gabriel and you take the under in the passing yards, it won't give you anything here. Great. So if we go to record, yeah, you can get yourself almost back up to even with another crappy odds one that goes along with it. So just straight up, you need to find a third to go with this, and you can use the free pick. That's something else that you get if you use code Mayo as a new player right now. But even with that correlation, you're going to bump it up higher than probably it should be, and you can see that the app loves Dylan Gabriel under 181 passing yards. You can find that at BetMGM right now. Hunter Renfrow under 2.5 receptions because it pays such plus money. Makes a bit of sense. I like the Tremble over Hunter Renfrow. I think he got to 3 last week. It was pretty dicey though. I don't love these ones because it's really just playing on what the VIG is, but the computer's telling you if you played it every single time, in the long run, you'd end up being a winner. You always hate to do these with the under 2.5 when you know that a player has a 7 reception upside, but a bad run defense for the Miami Dolphins. They're going to give the ball to ETN and Dowdle as much as possible. Obviously, Tet, Tremble, and now with Leggett back, it could bump Renfrow off the field a little bit more. Plus 137 for under 2.5 receptions. AD Mitchell over 22.5 yards. That's actually a pretty good one. I like that one a lot. Let's see what we got cooking here for AD Mitchell on Underdog, what his total and number is going to be. He's 29.5 receiving yards there. So at BetMGM right now, minus 118 for AD Mitchell. That's even probably something you can arb on some spots. Probably don't have to. I like the over because, again, we have no Alec Pierce in this game. It's not like they're using downs down the field. I mean, Mitchell got there last week. He dropped the touchdown. That doesn't matter. He would have hit the over 22.5 pretty easily. Jackson Dart passing yards is another big one that people seem to be on. At least the computer projects out. I like his over rushing yards of 37.5. However, under 186.5 passing yards right now. That's the same number and same VIG at Hard Rock and BetMGM. You can both play those. I'm guessing that if you go to the prop screen, you can find them at different places as well. Let's take a look at what that number is across the board and what the VIG is across the board for Giants and Saints in this game. So passing yards, you can see it's as low as 172. That is at Bookmaker right now, and as high as 186.5. All that's been vigged up pretty well at BetMGM. DraftKings has it at 175, so almost 11. It's 11 yards lower at DraftKings. FanDuel has it as 8 yards lower. So it really does help. You can find all of the different books on the Sharp Stack app. When there's a prop that you like, you can find it with the VIG. You can find it with the number as well. It is imperative that you site shop for all of these places to get yourself the best number in the long run. If you're making $100 bets on this, you're saving yourself, $10 almost every single time. If you can find 10 cents on a number between minus 115 and minus 105, it's hard enough to hit these at a high rate anyway. Saving that 10 cents is like a free $100 over the course of 10 bets if you save yourself 10 cents a time. So it is very important that you end up going with it. Saquon Barkley under 2.5 receptions plus 115. Anytime you can kind of take the under on Barkley in receptions, you probably go for it. We've seen that the run blocking for the Eagles has been just quite terrible so far this year. We know that the Broncos are going to be bringing the heat. Will that lead to Saquon Barkley receptions? You can always go to projections and see what comes in. So we'll go to running backs and we can just search the player. We'll go to Saquon Barkley. We have him as a slight over on the receptions he's projected for 2.66. So on the bell curve, obviously it's not going to be 2.66. It's more than likely going to be 2 or 3, but you're getting odds to do it. So I think it was plus 122 is what we saw in that regard. So what we're seeing is that if you bet $100, you win 122. So it's worth it to take the gamble at even a smaller, even if it's a 52% loser because of the odds, it would actually inflate it up because you're getting plus money back on the other side of that. So that's how you can leverage a lot of these tools to do what you want. Again, 4for4.com/Mayo gets you to the main screen. Code Mayo50 gets you the 7-day free trial, which also gets you all the season-long fantasy, all the DFS tools, the sim tools, everything like that, plus the Discord where Noonan's going to have his tackle props. DeForest Buckner, if he plays, which he should, he had a Veterans Day rest on Friday. I like him over tackles, 3.5 and 4.5 against Genty. They're going to try to pound Genty. It's not going to work. Buckner is either going to get sacks or he's going to stop Genty safety at the line of scrimmage. So over 3.5, probably right around even money is a really good look. It's just those tackle props have not populated yet, but you do get the sharp stack system along with the projections, the ARB tool, everything that you just saw on the screen, plus more, some of the stuff that I didn't even go to in those tabs. Free 7 days plus a 50% off discount for the monthly plan there on out. Code Mayo50 at 4for4.com/Mayo right now. Okay? Let's move to DraftKings. And as I mentioned, one of the other tools that you can get involved with that sharp stack and code Mayo50 is all of the DFS tools that we're going with this week. This is the optimizer and sim tool and ownership projections from 4for4 underneath the DFS tab. You can find everything in there, all of Squirrel Patrol's content, Showdown Simulator, solver, lineup generator, floor and ceiling projections, ownership projections, stack projections, everything like that. I am just looking over who is going to be the highest owned and who are the best values of the week are going to be. As you can see right now, highest projected ownership is going to be Devin A-Chain. These will update on Saturday evening and Sunday morning to give you the better sense, because I have a feeling, and I know that he's not going to be very highly up there. Rico Daddle is only projecting right now for 9% ownership. I think of all of the cheap running backs who are coming in this week between DeMercado, Rachaad White, Sean Tucker, Michael Carter, and Rico Daddle. Daddle will be the one where everyone goes to. You can see he's a very high GPP value at 5.39. We'll see who the best ones are going into that right now. It's a big high points per dollar value. Using him at $4,300 is a way that you can not necessarily get different, because everyone, I think, like 9% ownership, I think that's going to end up being like 15 to 20%, and even higher in smaller stakes contests, because Michael Carter is just not projecting well. People are going to try to save money somewhere. Michael Carter only 4% owned. I don't hate playing him either. I just prefer Daddle. Maybe as a pivot, you can go to Carter. I just thought it was interesting that right now we're seeing A-Chain, Jonathan Taylor, Omarion Hampton, all coming in at very high ownership. Breece Hall ditto. Right now, all four of those running backs are being projected for over 20% ownership, with A-Chain as high as 35%. Like just the easy run back. If you're going to pair up A-Chain with someone else, it's going to be A-Chain and Daddle or A-Chain and Tremble. In my mind, that's the way that I would play it. At the other positions, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jalen Waddle, George Pickens, and Amon-Ra St. Brown are the four that are really popping off the page. Then you're down into Garrett Wilson and Quentin Johnston, all of them projecting between 15 and 25% at the moment at the position. Tyler Warren and Trey McBride right around 20%. So all of these guys are very high prices. Like, we haven't got to a single value play yet. The highest value play that people seem to be gravitating towards, Rachaad White at $4,700. I don't think that's a good play. I think Daddle and Carter for cheaper prices at lower ownership, at least projected at the moment, much better plays on this slate than Rachaad White. Famous last words when Pat's going against someone, but split carries. Maybe he makes it up through the receiving game and scores a touchdown, but going up against a very good defense, I do not like this situation at all. And then we start to take a look at some of the other positions. The best quarterback in terms of ownership on this slate, Justin Herbert, right around 18%. I think that ends up coming in lower. And then you got no one until Daniel Jones. So Herbert and Jones are going to be the most likely duo that people are building with as a starting point. You can watch the show on Friday on Mayo Media Network, sub to the channel, and you will see lineups that we built with both of those quarterbacks to stack up those games and how you can still get a little bit different. What this tells me right now is that no one can jam all these guys in. We built a bunch of lineups on Friday that feature A-Chan, Jonathan Taylor, and Breece Hall. And then Breece Hall is a very good value at only $5,600. But how do you get around that? Like, you can stack up, and Jahmyr Gibbs is another one that we worked in against Cincinnati just because he was not popping off the page, like 17% ownership. I don't think that he gets that high because it is impossible to play all these guys together at some of these ownerships. You're going to have to use a Daddle, which takes up one of your running back spots, or a Rachaad White. The other way that you can go is to use some of the cheaper wide receivers. So instead of using George Pickens to go opposite Breece Hall, you can use Jalen Tolbert at $3,600. Boom. Then you can play three stud running backs, which are the safer options. Darius Slayton is the same price as Rico Daddle. You can make a 1v1 swap. Instead of using Warren or using Trey McBride, it's expensive options at tight end. Tommy Tremble is just sitting there for everyone to use at $2,900 and works in the game stack where A-Chain comes along anyway. If we just look at values this week, Garrett Wilson is the best on the board for GPP value. It's him, Breece Hall, A-Chan, then Rico Daddle at number 4, Jonathan Taylor, Omarion Hampton, who I don't love this week. I mean, I like his passing passing prowess, I don't think he's going to run all over Washington. That's just me. It's been a bad look for him. If you want to take advantage of Washington, which we've seen so far this season, throw deep on them. That's why I like QJ more than anyone else on the Chargers side. We got Rachaad White projecting as a very good value. Javonte Williams at $6,200 projecting as a value. Justin Fields, Justin Herbert, Gibbs, Waddle. None of these guys, like the highest guy, honestly, who's getting lost in the mix, Baltimore has no defense to speak of right now. Everyone is hurt. Woody Marks took over in that backfield for the Texans last week, both on the ground and in the receiving game, scored the 2 touchdowns. It's not like he's like 99% getting the snaps. Like Nick Chubb's going to have his work, but there's a great situation. The Texans are favored against the Ravens. They have no defense, and Woody Marks, because of the cheap values that have emerged and Breece Hall being right around the same price, only $5,400 for Woody Marks, 3% projected ownership. He might come in even lower than that. That is a very good calculated gamble if you want to pivot off Breece Hall and get access to that Texans and Ravens game, which is not going to be like a super good game for fantasy purposes, but a good spot for Woody Marks. The other two in that similar range that no one really seems to want to go to, Scattaboo with no Tyrone Tracy and a good matchup against the Saints, only 8% ownership. And then at 52%, $5,200 and 3% ownership. Everyone wants pieces of this Lions and Bengals game because you can beat up on the Lions, yet no one is using David Montgomery. That's usually famous last words. I too would love to jam in Gibbs as much as possible, but he's cheap. No one's using him, and it's a spot where he just might score 3 touchdowns in this game. So very interesting if you did want to pivot off of some of those lower tier running backs that we talked about. Like I like Dowdle, then Carter. Those would be the 2 that I use. But if you're not going to have to save the money there, I think that you would go to maybe that mid-range, because everyone who does fade, a lot of the cheaper and tight end, or the cheaper end running backs, is just going to throw in as many as possible of the expensive options, or use Breece Hall at $5,600. If you can get away from that, that might be the move to make your team slightly different. If you go with one of those Herbert or Daniel Jones or even Justin Fields builds, which are all going to be pretty popular this week. You can see Jalen Tolbert does project out as one of the better values on the slate. $3,600. He is 11th in wide receiver value, and at only $3,600, just rates out really well because he allows you to do a ton in your lineups because of that price point. At tight end, the other ones that we're looking at right now, McBride, Ferguson, and Juwan Johnson. It takes a while to get down to my main man, Tommy Tremble, who's only projected for 7 points. I will go against the computer on this one and play him at that big savings. You could play Gaddison. I wouldn't, because it seems like Will Disley is going to be back. He's not going to run all those routes, but the cheapest one you can find, like Mason Taylor, maybe as a throw-in piece to that high-scoring game, if you're going to play a jet stack anyway, I would still prefer Tremble, as I said, or maybe Chig against a bad defense against tight ends for the Arizona Cardinals, and Chig might be the primary pass-catching option for Cam Ward against the Titans in a big catch-up spot. I just don't want to play any Titans, so that doesn't really work out for me. You can also test out all of your lineups, like just you set the optimizer for what it's going to be. You see Fields, and Darnold lineups, and then you can sim them for different size contests if you want to. So in the large field MME, this lineup is Fields with, let's see here, you got 2 Dolphins. So it's Garrett Wilson and Fields together, and Jake Ferguson as a bring back. So that actually makes a lot of sense. Jonathan Taylor, one of the better plays at running back, 8,000. He's in there. You got 2 Dolphins, Waddle and Achane coming together just to try to hope that's a concentrated offense. That's where all the scoring comes from. You have Alec Eomanor at $4,100. This is where I would actually just play Jalen Tolbert and save the money and try to get better somewhere else. Deebo Samuel at $6,300 in the flex. Texans D, my favorite cheap D of the week as well. It's them, the Giants, and the Seahawks for below $3,000 for me. You can find all the ownerships in the cheat sheet coming out later on Saturday evening, updated again on Sunday morning when you click back on it. But this is a pretty decent lineup. It's a top 1%er. We'll see how that goes. So this is for large field MME with over 10,000 entrants. This is theoretically going to cash in tournament simulations 26% of the time. Obviously, it's a win rate in a 10,000 entry plus tournament. It's not going to win all that often. Top 1%, right around 0.1%. So not the end of the world. Good ROI on this lineup of right around 20% because of the ownership and projections that come into place with it. So this is a very solid GPP exclusive lineup for large field tournaments. The thing you need to remember is how does that go against small field MMEs where you're right around 100, like 1,000 entries, or large field single entries, or small field single entries, or even 3 max competitions of 3,000 plus. Let's simulate this out for a small field GPP, 250 plus entrants. So, when you get to the minimum of that, does this rate out well? No, it does not rate out all that well in a smaller field tournament, which is very interesting. That shows you the juxtaposition between large field GPPs and what it takes to get to the top of that. It still cashes around 22% of the time, wins 0.4% of the time, top 1.1%, 0.4% of the time, but you're going to lose out to more stable lineups that just feature better players in them. And you can see how often that they come. A top 8% finish. This comes a top 9% finish. This lineup finished in the 9th percentile of the contest and 79.8% of those simulations. So there's a lot of different variables that go into this. But again, 4for4.com/Mayo, you can get the 50% off monthly package that includes this sim product. It includes all of those tools plus SharpStack plus the Discord to go back and forth. There's also different ways that you can go through everything. If you just go back to players, you can hand build lineups as well and just, do those at the same time and run them through the simulations if you want to see how well that would work out for you in those smaller field tournaments, because I like to hand build smaller field tournament stuff as well. And now that I can run them through the simulations to see if it's profitable or not in the long run versus the expectation of the ownership that we're getting in that sense, it's made me a better player. I've been winning. I've won 3 of 4 weeks so far of DraftKings, which is very helpful. And just getting the information from both John and Tambo on that Friday show as I'm trying to build lineups, trying to find the theory. The big thing is you need to know that you're not going to win every single week if you're going to be playing these giant field tournaments. What the sim product can do is at least try to help you maximize the good weeks that you have, that you're not just winning double your money in large field GPPs, that when you have a chance to get to the top, that you have the right simulated lineups that you can do. 4for4.com/Mayo right now. Get on that main page, Mayo 50, to get 50% off. That's the cheat sheet for week number 5. If you want to get the list of the rankings, you want to get the ownership percentages all updated, I'll have this cheat sheet in article form in my newsletter, completely free. Go sign up for it right now. It's down in the description. Additionally, you can find that at 4for4.com. If you just want the updated rankings list, that's already done. That's in the newsletter, and the direct link for the update on 4for4 is just down in the description right now. Please go click on that, check them all out. And if you have a question, a start-sit question, any question you got to smash the like, you got to sub to the channel, then you can leave it down in the comment section right now. I'll get to it Saturday evening and or Sunday morning before the London kickoff. Promises, all right? Thank you all for watching. Have a good week number 5. I'll see you Sunday night live at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time right here on Mayo Media Network with myself, Custom, the return of Gary and Thorne. You can go set your reminder right now for that because it's a lot of fun doing that show before Sunday Night Football. But until then, I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!